everyone. Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Good morning, Rush Nation. Here we are, FFCC day, exciting day for me, hopefully for all of you that are playing in this, all 324 of you. First off, I really appreciate you entering this tournament and playing. Means the bottom means so much to me, this charity, and just all the money that we've raised for charity. You know, we've raised close to £32,000 since we started running this tournament 6 years ago, 5 years ago, which is just an enormous amount of money. And this year's the best fundraising year we've ever had. We're approaching £6,400 raised for Crohn's and Colitis UK, and it's a lot of money to help a really important organisation, one that's really important to me in particular. So first off, I really appreciate all of you on that. But it is the day. You know, many people tell me this is the hardest tournament out there, which I take pride in. But it is a difficult tournament. This isn't just a case of drafting a good team and hoping it runs through. There's a lot of different factors to consider. It's a knockout competition almost from the start. It's 2 bad weeks and you're out of this thing, regardless of how good your team is. So you have to take into consideration positional values. You have to take into consideration bye weeks. A heavy stack on a team, when it gets to that team's bye week, you could be in trouble. You could be out of this tournament. So that's a really big, important factor in all of this is, if you stack too much or have too many stacks, it could really hinder you in this format. If you take too many players with the same bye week, that will also hinder you. If you, shoot for the moon on all your players, I mean, that could really work. But if you've got high volatility, it's those down weeks that could see you be eliminated. So maybe there's a prudent option to take those more consistent, low, maybe lower ceiling but much higher floor players. The Consistency Guide by Bob Blanc plays a big part in all of this, in projecting who is going to have a clutch game, who's going to have a really important game for you week in, week out, and who's going to have hit that floor that's going to allow you to progress. And then you've got the scoring on kickers, which leads me nicely on to the 2024 numbers, or 2023 numbers. So looking at the stats last year here on the screen, you can see that the quarterbacks, you got Christian McCaffrey was second, but you got the quarterbacks here were high up. CeeDee Lamb makes the entrance there, but then look, you're starting to see kickers drop in. Brandon Aubrey was the 7th highest scoring player in this format last year. He had 393 points. Then you can see here other QBs. Kyra Santos is in here, Jason Myers, and you see kickers here are starting to have a really big effect in here before we get to tight ends. So you're getting kickers before tight ends, and it's start 2 kickers, which is something that people probably sleep on, but it's really important. But you also look at Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker was the kicker 11 in this scoring format last year, and he finished 25th overall. And he got the same amount of points as Sam Laporta. So this is giving you the kind of numbers that you're going to get here. And you see here that actually the number one performing tight end wasn't Laporta, and it wasn't Kelsey. It was Ingram, due to the amount of volume that he had. So that's got to play into your mind. So there's a lot of strategy here in terms of the scoring and how this breaks down in this format. Running backs are elevated over wide receivers in this format. So there is a lot of different options that you've got to consider here when putting your draft strategy together. And so one of the things I have done, which will be somewhat helpful, but I don't know how helpful it will be in the overall strategy, is actually putting together my projections totals for this format, including kickers. The one thing I would say with the kickers in here is that I'm probably over conservative, and it's very hard to project the kickers because you've got a range of yards in which they will, where they're likely to sort of make their field goals. But it might be a range, but you don't know the exact yardage. I'm not going to be able to project what 40, 50 field goal yardages are going to be. So that's where it gets a little bit more difficult. So there is a bit of aggregated data in here which sees this number go down a fair bit. And so with that in mind, I would say that as much as I have kickers scored out in here, and you can see I've got Young Hoku as my kicker 1 in this format this year, he is quite a bit down. And we saw that we had 11 kickers in the top 25 of scoring. So there is some volatility here. And we saw that Brandon Aubrey had 390 points. I'm projecting the top kicker to score 310. So that's something to take into consideration when going through these. So these are projections. There is a level of floor that's built into these. And so with that in mind, that's got to be baked in. So you've got to look for the upside of those with the longer kicking yardages, those who are more successful from long range, and also the volumes. So you can see here there's a wide spread here. QBs sort of dominate this format early on, but there is a sprinkling of the tight ends up here. And the wide receivers are pushed down a fair bit in this format. So you can wait on wide receiver in this format versus the tight ends and the kickers. As you can see here, we're starting to see the sprinkling of the kickers here before. Many kickers are going well before total points. Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, etc. So you've got a lot of, so you'll see kickers go off the board early if people have read the scoring right, because they're going to have a much higher premium and much higher value. Don't forget, you're starting as many kickers as you are starting wide receivers. So right, there's flex places, so maybe not, but in the standard traditional lineup. So, taking the kicker in a third, fourth round is going to look wonky, but actually in the scoring format, it makes a bit of sense. So, feel confident in taking them if they're your guys. So the scoring is here. You can go through it and you can identify it as you wish. For the other positions, there is more traditional scoring. There is some bonuses in there on first downs for running backs and tight ends. So as well as also there is a tight end premium element in here. So this does have a bit of everything. I think there's many different ways to put this together, but I'd say my top tips in this format are having a real balance, taking kickers early and having a real balanced roster. I think you need to have a lot of depth in each position. But wide receiver is the one area that I think if you had to fade a position a little bit more, that's the one you could probably get away with a little bit more than the other positions. I think you're going to need to go up and get quarterbacks. You're going to have to go up and get kickers. You're going to have to go up and get running backs. You're going to have to go up and get tight ends. So I will say with that wide receivers get a little bit faded into a different tier and different cluster, and you'll see that represented in the projection. So that's the first thought. Don't be afraid to take kickers early. Many people won't, and you might feel like you've punted on the value, but again, when we're looking at the projections here, it kind of makes sense. Those that will sleep on kickers will fail at their peril. As I said, stacks. People are going to take stacks. People might even reach for stacks. There's good optimal positioning early on in the tournament, but later on in the tournament that could really come to bite you. Don't forget that because of the heads up, if you make it through to the semi-finals, bye weeks in week 14 might be suboptimal because your semi-final is 14 and 15. So if you've got a lot of bye week 14 players and you're in the semi-finals of this competition, so it's good because it might get you there, but the bad thing is you might blow out there if you're thinking about making the run all the way. So that's something to really consider. So watch your bye weeks, probably more in this tournament than any other tournament you draft in. It's going to be very difficult to get around. It is best ball, so you're not going to have the opportunity to pick up players. Watch out for those late round flyers as well. There'd be some good opportunities to pick up some guys late who could have who could be ceiling raisers into your roster. So, but just watch where you've got them from a bye week perspective, because it could be on a bye week that you're really struggling for already, and then it doesn't add any value. That's kind of it. It's really challenging. The format, as I put this morning and I put in the video last week, is 324 players. We lose 68 after week 1. So 68 players will fall into the Squid Game, and there'll be a random prompt they'll have to hit every single week to stay alive, or that will be eliminated. And then the remaining 256 players will fall into the main event. After week 3, which is a 2-week matchup, you will then The winners will advance in the main event. The losers will go into the Intercontinental Plate, and then the tournament will go on through there. So once you're eliminated from there, you will be eliminated from the tournament. So there's 3 different tournaments. It should mean everyone's got a few. Apologies for that. My mic unplugged. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that should be it for this format. It's a fun format. It's engaging format. It's very challenging. So I really appreciate everyone playing. I hope you enjoy the challenge. I hope you enjoy getting up against some great analysts. Keep the draft chats live. I know that slow drafts are a bone of contention in some people, but the more active the chat, the more active the draft will be, and that's a pretty common feeling. So I wrote loads of notes in the FFCC group chats this morning. And if you're watching this and you didn't enter the FFCC and you're like, what is this guy talking about? It's my annual charity tournament I run every year. You can message me and I can give you information about the 2025 tournament, or you can message me and there might be fallback space. So we boot people after 4 hours in the first round. So if they don't draft within the first 4 hours, then they will be booted. Unless they've let me know beforehand, then force a pick. So actually, there might be a couple of spaces. I do have a waiting list, so if you want to be added to that, you can leave me a comment in the YouTube comments, or you can DM me, and I'll pick that up. So, but that's going to do it for this one. I've just thought it would give you a bit of a breakdown as to the format and its unique challenges, and I will share this sheet in the YouTube comments, or in the YouTube description, so you will have access to this. And you'll be able to make your own decisions here. So good luck with the scoring. Good luck with the good luck with the drafts. We're going to chat a lot over the next couple of weeks. I'll share some breakdowns over the week as we go. And just a heads up, there will be a Good Morning Fantasy Football tomorrow. It will be a pre-record. It'll be something I pick later on today. I've got the day off and quite a busy day, so I will be putting a show out there, but it'll probably be some more strategy points and things to think about. So stay tuned for tomorrow, and don't forget the listener leagues. So the listener league link is in here. Please do enter that. They are filling up nicely. We've got a couple of leagues that are very close to full. So if you want to get in on the listener leagues and get your first choice, then please do click the link here. But that's going to do it for the show. Thank you so much for playing and entering and all the support you've given this show since we've started it. And I look forward to catching up with you all next week or later on in the week. And don't forget, as always, keep rushing.